everyone. Welcome to another edition of Check-In. I'm Sarah Lesky. He is Jamie Thomas. We are looking forward to a great... Oh, okay. I'm doing some housekeeping right now, it appears.
Just right off the top of the show, not like before the show.
Right.
Yeah, just seeing how this works.
We definitely wouldn't want to do that. We would not want to start that before.
I'm very excited about the show, so.
All right.
Especially this little guy.
We are looking forward to today's show, jam-packed show over the next 30 minutes, but we will get you ready for tonight's game against the Vancouver Canucks. This is game 6 of this 8-game homestand. It feels
still here.
They're still here.
They're still hanging around.
Which is great news, though, with the way that they've been playing, especially over the last couple of games. All Canadian matchup tonight. It is also Hockey Talks night here at Canada Life Center. Both of these organizations obviously having the connection to Rick Rippon.
Yep.
This is the 11th anniversary of Project 11, which was started really in memory of Rick and with mental health awareness and trying to encourage it amongst school-age students. It's continued to expand, so a great program there, but a special night here inside Canada Life Center.
Yeah, both teams will be wearing a number 11 on their helmets in memory of Rick Rippon. So both teams obviously have ties to Rick over his National Hockey League career.
Yes. Quickly, since you already made Mickey Moose the feature, obviously.
As he deserves to be.
As he deserves to be.
Yeah.
If you are looking for your save of the game item for tonight, either if you're coming to the game or online, the Bleacher Buddy, 24 inches. He is huge. Is on for $29.99. So he's a great addition. We might just keep him.
Forget the mascot.
Rest.
Yeah, just put
him. He's our mascot.
Yeah. There he is.
Very busy show. Jen Botterill will join us in just a couple minutes. So
wait. This is like such a cool show. So I gotta let everybody know.
Okay.
It's a visual medium, as they say, or something like that.
There you go, or something like that.
Yeah.
Also, then you look at all of the additional. So Jen will talk tonight's game with. Looking forward to that. Then Daren Millard, Gene Principe, Joe Pascucci. We're going to have them all on the same time because we're going to do a little Sportsline reunion, which if you grew up here in the 90s in Winnipeg, you will remember Sportsline.
It was a big deal.
It was. So looking forward to having them on to tell some stories. We've been talking to some of you about it. So looking forward to going down memory lane with all of that. But before, we've already got people in the chat.
Yeah.
Love to see it already. Let's see even more of you out there. We are not going to do, because we have such jam-packed show today, we aren't going to do a question of the day. So,
thank goodness.
But we
need time to recuperate from that one.
Let's take a look at what projected lines are just before Jen joins us.
Starting to hurt my brain with thinking of a new question every day. Here we go. Survey says projected lineup.
There you go. It is what we saw last game, but
I love the second line.
Yes, a lot of attention has been paid to the second line and the job that they did. Obviously, Nikolai Ehlers with a couple of goals, but really changes the dynamic of that second line when you put Adam Lowry and Alex Iafallo up there as well. Third line, Kapari centering it. So it'll be interesting to see. After the game, that 3-0 win against Colorado, Scott Arniel said that it gave him something to think about. He liked what he saw from that second line.
Yeah, when when Vladdy went out, they couldn't play. Obviously, because Scott Arniel has been consistent with his lines throughout the year. So now you're forced into a situation where you have to start making some moves. And really Adam Lowry was very complimentary of the efforts from Nikolai Ehlers, because it's also a checking line. And Lau said yesterday that Ehlers told he wants them to hold on the puck a little bit longer. And Adam mentioned the fact that he's making the super safe play because their job is to make sure the other line doesn't score. And that's the top line being the McKinnon line the other night. So great job by them, and great job by Jennifer Botterill. Sorry about that. I thought you were pointing to something else.
I wasn't, but it's great to see Jen.
Yes. Sorry. I thought you were giving the sign. I misread. I misread you. That's why we're terrible line mates.
So work in progress.
Yes. It's only game 43 and I haven't figured it out yet. So we're going to be just fine. Still lots of time to go here.
How you doing, Jen?
Hi, I'm doing really well. Great to see you guys. How are you doing?
We're doing great. We really appreciate, we know how busy your schedule is. Really appreciate you being able to join us for a couple of minutes so we could pick your brain a little bit regarding these two teams. And wanted to get right into it and start with the job that the Jets have done with what we've seen from them over the last couple games. In terms of the defensive side of the game, overall, what is it that you liked or maybe that stood out to you about their games against LA and Colorado?
Yeah, I mean, two impressive performances on the defensive side of the game. I think if I'd probably best describe it as they really did a good job of controlling the middle of the ice. And so if you're looking even at the game on Saturday against Colorado and all of their offensive power, I feel like the Jets did such a great job of keeping them to the outside. Even if the Avalanche had sustained pressure in the offensive zone, they typically most often kept at the outside of the ice. And I would say another thing that's been a big contributing factor, and I have watched the Jets very closely throughout this season. And it's one thing when Rick Bowness has been in our studio a bit, and he has just talked about how familiar these players are with each other. And I think we saw that in both games on Friday and Saturday, where the communication on the ice to make sure that they have the right coverage was really noticeable. So when you're playing the LA Kings on Friday, a team that's on a great roll and playing a very strong style of hockey, for them too. I mean, coming away with a point, but there were different rushes, different moments in the game when you're defending the rush to make sure you've got the right gap control. But how I see the defense group communicating with the forward group to make sure, whether it's on the back checks, whether at both ends of the ice, to make sure that they're really in sync. And I feel like that's been a really valuable tool for the Jets in terms of making sure that they're defending well and that they continue to control that middle of the ice very well.
We'll move on to the Canucks here in a second, Jen, but I want to get to answer a little further on that. It's one thing to shut down the Kings the way the Jets did and play the patient game they did, but it's just another thing entirely to contain McKinnon, Makar, and Rantanen the way they did on Saturday. And I don't want to keep going on it, but it was just such an impressive display of defending by the Jets on Saturday.
Well, definitely. And there are certainly situations, you look back at that game where those guys had the puck. But I also feel like when you think about how they're defending, it's very controlled. So you're not overcommitting. So making sure that, okay, well, then maybe you have to give them a little more space, knowing how skilled they are, how patient they are with the puck, but making sure that you're also not backing up too much and giving them too much space. So watching that game, I thought was just a really great example of the responsibility and the understanding of how you need to play a smart brand of hockey against a very talented and skilled team. And so whether it was in the neutral zone, because that's a team that loves to gather a lot of speed in the neutral zone, just making sure that you were gapping up to prevent them from gathering too much speed. And then when they did get into the offensive zone and the Jets defensive zone, they were aware of how much space to give them and then not giving up some of those seam passes or the slot area, which was what they're looking for when they're, when they have the offensive puck control in the offensive zone.
Okay, well, as I promised, we're going to talk about the Canucks now. You've been in studio 100 times this year with the Canucks on Hockey Night Canada on Saturday. What is really standing out for you with the Vancouver Canucks at this point of the season?
Okay, so besides all of the noise surrounding the team, obviously it's been a hot topic of a hot topic of discussion for many reasons. But if you think about their team, that's another. There's one player that is leading the way as their captain, but also the puck control that he has in Quinn Hughes. So I feel like anytime a team is playing the Vancouver Canucks, he's the player that is going to have the puck on his stick for the majority of the time. And so he's just done a great job, I think, of instilling a pretty composed style of play. If you look at another leader on their team, despite all the conversations going around, JT Miller, even though they haven't had the best last week, the Canucks, Miller has still had some pretty good moments and inspiring play on his part. But I also feel like you have to be aware that they have a few depth guys that have stepped up recently, whether you look at a Connor Garland, look at a player like Kiefer Sherwood, who's come up and been physical, trying to add a little more consistency to that team. But I think the big thing you have to realize for them is that physicality up front with a couple of those guys. And then again, the awareness. We've had a great practice. If you're the Jets and you've just played the Avalanche in terms of it's Makar coming up and rushing the puck, or now if you're playing Quinn Hughes, I just think that awareness of that, but also being aware of the Canucks' depth and energy and physicality that they've tried to bring.
Jen, a three-time Olympic gold medalist, you've seen the game, the women's game change. You've seen it grow. And certainly when you think about the the way that it's being embraced right now, and we're seeing sold out arenas for the PWHL. What is it like for you to see just the popularity explode the way that it has, and the growth, and the fact that young women now, young girls now, have role models to look up to, which they always did with you guys, but it's so much easier to see it in your own backyard, and just it's so much more in the forefront than what it was when we were growing up.
Absolutely. And I'm just so happy to see all of it. And I think it's so well deserved for all of the athletes. I think the one thing I always think that the players today deserve a lot of credit because they were patient with the process, right? I feel like they could have settled and done something in a quicker manner to establish a league, but they really were so focused on making sure that they did it the right way. And they wanted to make sure that this was in place for decades and decades and several generations ahead. And so I think it's just been so exciting to see. And with 3 young girls that play the game who are 5 and 7 and 9, it's been amazing to see it through their eyes, right? And we're taking them to games. We've got seasons tickets, and we took them to the game last year at Scotiabank Arena, right? Sold out, and that they want to get there early and watch the warm up. Or if the games are on the television, my 2 older girls want me to stop the screen when they show the lineups just to make sure they know every player that's playing. And sometimes we're at a rink here in Toronto where the Leafs practice, but so do the Toronto Scepters. And so if one of the women's players is walking through, the comment from my girls is, well, there's a professional hockey player, right? It's not about the gender or if it's someone playing the NHL or the PWHL. It's just, oh, there's a professional hockey player. And so I think it's just wonderful to see in terms of now all of these young hockey players growing up can see it on what's possible. And I also just think that the level of play has been so high and so skilled that it's just been a great moment in sport. So I'm just so thrilled to see. And I covered a game last year at the All-Star weekend, and I was up in the booth. They were playing the anthem, and I definitely got a little emotional, choked up, because I said, as a player, this is what we hoped and we dreamed of. And so to see it all coming to life is just such a sense of, I guess, excitement and fulfillment. And it's so great to see.
Before we let you go, like, you've been an analyst for a long time now. You're everywhere. You're in the US, you're in Canada. How much are you enjoying being able to talk about this as a former player, the growth and rise of women's hockey as well?
Oh, it's just nice. And I think that the game, and what's nice is because one of the main focuses for all the players with establishing this league was for the next generation. And so I think you're seeing that now with registration and the level of involvement at the grassroots level. And so I think it's just such an indication of the quality of people that are involved in the game of hockey on the men's side and the women's side, especially, that I feel like with the demands of the PWHL and their schedule and being full-time athletes and talking to them and how much they're embracing that, but that they're always taking the extra step to make sure they're available for whether it's media coverage, whether it's special events in the community. And so I think they just deserve all of the attention and more that they're getting. And it's an honor to have the chance to help them in some small way in terms of the exposure and the awareness, because it has been so well received.
It absolutely has. It's been great to watch. And I think we've talked before about how women's sports as a whole having increased popularity and a real movement and so much more exposure. It's great to see, certainly great to see on the hockey side as well. Jen, we appreciate it. As you mentioned, I mean, mom of 3.
Sorry for bringing you on super early there, but I got excited. I saw you pop up in the window, and I'm like, it's time. And then Sarah gives me the look, like she's like, bring Jen on. And I obviously misread the situation.
Just ready to go.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. It's like the extra ice time. So I appreciate it. Thank you. And please make sure that you tell your guests ahead, Jean and Daren and Joe, what an inspiration all of them are. So please tell them I say hi.
Absolutely. We'll pass that along. Jen, so many people in our comments as well, just saying how much they're a big fan of yours, how much they love seeing you on hockey night. They love your perspective and insight on everything, and they appreciate you spending a little bit of time with us as well. So thank you so much from all of us to you.
Oh, thank you. It's been a pleasure. Great to see you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks so much, Jen.
See you, Jen.
Bye.
It's too bad. We should have brought her on with 3 guests. Anyways, now that I think about it. Jen, hang on there. Don't go anywhere. Because another big part of the show. Do you want to talk about something else before we bring the guys on?
Just very quickly before I bring them on, just reminder. So for tonight's game against the Canucks, the Jets with third best home record, 16-4-3. Although the Canucks outside the playoff picture right now,
Second best road record.
they do.
Yeah.
So 12-5-4. They are coming in off of a 3-0 shutout win over Toronto.
Yeah.
Similar score to what we saw here, with the Jets being able to.
And they had all kinds of travel issues coming because they came in the day of into Toronto. They had some,
See, you did do some reading on that. Good for you, buddy.
You know what?
I feel like this is what
I feel
the
like
guys
they're
on
patronizing.
Sportsline would have
Is
did.
this how they act to one another?
It must have been.
I've seen some videos that tell me there was some violence on the set. So some violence on the set. Let's, as promised, of course, CKND, big part of the sports world. If anybody grew up in Winnipeg, I worked there for 2 months. Best 2 months of my life, obviously. That's why I came back here. And a big part of everybody's life growing up, because this was when sports was fun, as us old guys will say. So without further ado, I bring in Joe Pascucci, Daren Millard, and Gene Principe to the show. Gentlemen, welcome. So happy to have you here. And I think you guys heard Jen and her kind words to you guys about being an inspiration. That must be pretty cool to hear that.
It definitely is. And I do some of the stats for the PWHL broadcasts. So I've seen a lot of those women games, and they are very entertaining. And yes, the future, when they're the players that are getting motivated to play women's professional hockey, the league is only going to get better and better.
Can I just mention there's a funny story with Jen that I had this winter. My wife's name is Jen, and my daughter and I were on a text string, and I was going back and forth with my daughter about something that couldn't happen, and it went like 20 texts deep. And finally, I like wonder why Jen's not replying, but it was Jen Botterill that was part of the text string, not Jen Millard. So I do owe Jen Botterill a big apology.
All right. Well, listen, we kind of came across this kind of organically because Daren was on our show a couple of weeks ago talking about a certain incident that happened on CKND and on Sportsline. It was about helmets. And we all know Wayne Gretzky's helmet and Yuri Curry's helmet. And anybody that grew up in that era, we knew, like, how did these guys survive wearing that helmet? I know Ken Reed still has one from Sportsnet. So let's go to the tape here, and we'll get you guys to react to this afterwards.
The play incident was open for discussion from safety groups to say, this helmet isn't really a helmet.
Yeah.
It looks like a helmet to me because Wayne Gretzky wears it. Well, in fact, the distributor even admitted today that this helmet isn't supposed to be used for hockey, instead for housework. Now, I'm not sure what that means,
let's
but
see how it works.
We'll test it out. I'll get some cleaning stuff here.
I thought you talked more,
I'll
Gene.
just clean up.
I'm just, I had a silent part here. Well, there you go.
If I wasn't wearing a helmet, I could be in big trouble doing housework. So, next time I vacuum,
wear
could be the helmet.
All right.
This is my favorite part. I went right into like an intro for the Women's World Hockey Championship.
Not bad.
That was a match penalty. That's a match penalty.
They cut it off. They cut it off.
Oh, wow.
That was a lot of fun. First of all, it's great to see Joe and Daren. Daren, we bump into each other a little bit on the Vegas Edmonton connection for the NHL. And Joe, I follow you on social media. You do great stuff, bringing back all the historic moments for the Jets and the Bombers in particular. And that, just when you were setting that up, Jamie, and hello, Sarah, I started laughing, thinking back to some of the things that we did, and that Joe was kind of the ringleader and allowed us to do lots of stuff that I'm not sure we would think of doing these days. I'm not sure we would be allowed to do it, but back then I think Joe called it screwing around time. That was really built in, just like scripts and highlights. There was time built in for just screwing around, and that would be a prime example of it.
I think
3
the
minutes
reaction
of
was
around time.
the reaction from Joe was, what do you guys want to do? Okay, well, let me see it first.
I think Daren and I would say that Joe was a huge part of our careers. Winnipeg was a career-changing and life-changing time for me. My wife Karen is from there, but really it was an opportunity to do some things that in other markets we didn't have, and part of that was a half-hour window. Right, most of us were coming from 5-minute sportscasts, and you're trying to just get everything in there. You didn't have time to do much more, but that half hour was basically, it was an open canvas. Every day, and we painted our photos, our paintings that began with nothing at around 2:30 when we arrived, and was finished by around midnight.
Yeah, it was great, and I thank you two guys for helping create the vision of the show that I wanted to create. I know Diana Swain, who's now with CBC, she said it in an interview just a few years ago that we were ahead of our time. We were Jay and Dan 15 years, 20 years ahead of them.
You're absolutely right about that. And Joe was the first one in every day. And then he would have his idea, and then we would come in with this idiocy. And he somehow had the wherewithal or the patience to let us do some of this stuff. And we should also mention, he was at the front door of some of this stuff too.
Yeah, don't pretend you're innocent, Joe. Guys,
exactly. The toss to the news anchor at the end of the show, that was Joe's inspiration. That was his concept.
Yeah, I remember with Barry Burns. God bless Barry. In fact, Barry, when I've been in town with the Oilers, the first time I was back, I hear this voice of the bus driver, and I go, that sounds like Barry Burns. And it was Barry, but I remember Joe, and Joe can follow up. Joe would, come up with this, Barry, you got a flat tire and your window's broken. What do you think of what happened? Thank you, Joe. And so it was.
What if we said you won $1 million?
Yeah.
Thanks, Joe.
Yes. And
Barry was taped earlier in the evening, and of course we were live. So again, I'm not sure a station, a network would let you do that, but Joe had, I think the one thing I would say about Joe is that Joe was okay to share the limelight, the spotlight, and that allowed us to be creative. And it was a huge stepping stone for Daren and I in our careers that we might not have had, or might have had to waited longer if we didn't have the opportunity through CKND. Good looking CKND is what it was called when I first started there.
Jamie, I think that's a cue to run the Gene Principe clip.
You brought clips?
Welcome back to Sportsline. You've probably figured out I'm a bit of an idiot. You've also figured out who the Blue Jays starting pitcher was in tonight's game.
David Cohn. Yeah, oh my God.
Very Norm Macdonald.
My tie doesn't even go with my suit. How's this going to go with my suit? David Cohn took to the hill for his second start with the Jays.
Oh,
and the
man.
former Met being tossed right into the pennant
suit,
fever.
though.
Maybe the
You can wear
proudest
that
moment
now.
my parents have ever had for me.
We are trying to get him professional help.
That's an
on
elite
it,
year.
So with the Jays win, don't touch me with that thing.
$17 for the money's worth.
We're losing our credibility faster to get that thing out of here.
We've come up with some alternate hairstyles we will look at for the first time this evening.
Oh, yeah.
That would be a sort of satanic look, I guess. And what else have we got to look at this evening? Oh, the Goldilocks look. I like that. Yeah, Heidi.
That was cutting edge.
Honestly, when you think of this is what, 92, 93? That's me as Joe. Oh, gosh.
That is ugly.
Wow. Did I have bad hair? Still do.
Yeah.
And Joe, you have all this stuff, right?
I have a lot of it. Not all of it. Some of it's still back at the station.
I didn't think that the helmet clip existed anymore. I thought that was gone.
Just first of all, Jamie and Sarah, thanks for bringing us back together again. Yeah, I know. It's like we don't need them, but we do. But nowadays, so many of our things, just watching that, would go viral, right? You've got something that happens, and I think back in those days, other than Joe keeping it, it would happen and it would be gone. There was no replay, there was no watching it on social media, and I just think of moments like already 3 or 4 that we've run today in this interview that would be online and be running over and over again. So that is great. And we don't want to pat ourselves too much in the back, but we were thinking ahead, and basically we were just trying to entertain people. At the end of the show, we just hope people said, wow, that was fun, that was entertaining, along with providing some highlights and some game analysis. So it was great. I will say, I love my job and I have a ton of fun in it, but those 3 years I was there were really just it was just to kind of do whatever you wanted, and it's hard to do that and be allowed to do that nowadays.
I remember Sportsline trivia.
Sorry, Daren, hold on a second.
Yeah.
Joe, what was it like to have 2 guys like Gene and Daren when they lived together, which means more time to come up with ideas?
It's
and then
true,
come
yeah.
to the office every day.
Oh, it was great. I mean, they took command of the show, and then it was great. I didn't have to do that. I could concentrate on reporting and coming up with kind of weird ideas, because I wanted to evolve the show. It started as a highlight show. Then we brought on guests, right?
Yeah.
We interviewed guests all the time. We had Willard Reeves talking about the NFL because he played in the NFL. We had Mo Mantha talking about inside the NHL.
Yeah.
And then he got traded because he went on our show and said that the Jets were trading somebody. He was gone within 2 weeks. Like, I was shocked. So, and of course, the most popular person we had as a guest was Chris Walby.
Yeah.
And Daren and I both, Walby had fun with us.
Yeah.
And I was going to talk. That got cut from the show because Walby's. We were watching. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he could say stuff to you. He was talking about.
I know.
Lips. He was talking like he was going all off he was going everywhere. Then I'm like, I don't know if we can show this today. So somewhere I had to get. We got kibosh. But Sarah's like, are you sure we should put this on?
I'll send it to you, Daren.
Yeah.
I remember Walby basically initiating me to the show to this day. The feeling of fear in my heart and my soul and my face all red.
Because his arms like so huge. He's talking to you about your lips. I'm like, he's like talking about how red your lips are. And I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Great television. So I apologize to everybody that we couldn't run that one, but it didn't make it across the editing floor.
The one highlight I wish I had, and I don't have it, is Daren had done a story when the Jets, during the lockout of 94-95. He did a soccer thing with Tai DOI, and he had a penalty shot competition, and Tai won. So that night, Gene and I kind of challenged Tai, and I went a little too far and really challenged him. And so we ended up going out to the indoor soccer complex. We didn't do the penalty shot contest. We played a game. So there was the Jet players, they had their teams, and I was stuck in goal. And Tai DOI tried to score on me and couldn't score on me no matter how hard he tried. Much to the embarrassment of his Jet teammates, that this old sportscaster is really making him look bad. And I stopped him at least 5 or 6 times. He never scored on me.
I think his Jet teammates really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Well, and
knowing what I know,
I think, Joe, listen to us talk about. I remember, kind of hanging out with the players. That was a lockout year, but that relationship, we just, it's okay that we don't have it, but you kind of miss it when you think back to, being able to hang out with guys, and we felt like they were our friends. They weren't just somebody that we covered. And Tai especially was fantastic to be around. But I remember Chris King, and you used to bring on Luciano Borsato, and we did a segment where we did it in Italian, and with subtitles. So I just some things that nowadays I don't know if you would even start that question. You wouldn't even have the request to say, hey, we're thinking of doing this. I see Bob Essens. I saw him last week. he's the goalie coach still for Boston. I remember going to Bob's place and doing an interview with him. That's another thing. We don't really go to players' homes unless it's a real NHL-driven topic or show. So a lot has changed, but it was just a real great time to be in Winnipeg and to be part of the sports scene.
Absolutely. Is there we've shown a couple clips. Is there something, Daren, Jean, Joe, is there a moment or another skit time that really stands out to you guys as being favorites?
We did an all-star skills competition that featured different acts around the office, and Calvin was the editor.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Kelvin. He was like an associate producer and did a ton of work.
And he did plays of the week back then, and he would disappear for like 6 hours for plays of the week. Like, we got a show. But anyway, he did one where he fell down the stairs, and it's like during the day, and the general manager, everybody's trying to do their stuff, and Calvin's falling down the stairs with a hockey stick. That's one that I remember.
I like the skills competition. That was fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed one where.
Oh, sorry, Gene. What stand? You talked about the relationship you had with the players. It's different, but what stands out about covering the Jets 1.0 days to all three of you?
Well, I think for me, it was I remember Eddie O, who I still see these days. And I mean, Eddie could have run for mayor in Winnipeg and won in a landslide. And I remember him seeing me for a first time and shaking my hand, introducing himself, even though, I knew who he was. And, if you need anything, we're here for you. And I really felt like the Jets were like that, and the players were like that. Like you could almost, Winnipeg is a small, big town. And I just felt the connection that you had with them. Now it's you're friendly with players. I think you don't necessarily cross the line of being friends, but I think back then it just was really natural. To just get along, and Joe helped start that because of the relationships he had with the organization and with the players, and he sort of dragged Daren and I along to continue that. So it was a lot of fun. I remember sitting in Winnipeg Stadium. We were waiting for hockey to start. You and I, Daren, were freezing up there, just kind of wondering when is the season going to start, and doing a skit. But it was just there were like no bad ideas. I would say
that was the one where the guy at Winnipeg Enterprises at the arena. We showed up for the game, and the guy didn't get that we were doing a skit, and he yelled at us. He was mad at us.
Yeah, absolutely. There were no bad ideas. We would turn something into something. Like you couldn't, I don't know if you could say you couldn't stop us, but we would make it work one way or the other.
I interviewed Eddie Olczyk at one of his kids, might have been Nick, who's now in the broadcasting, Nick's baseball games. I said, can we get a comment about the Jets, whether they were leaving or not? He's like, yeah, but I've got a baseball game at so-and-so. Can you come and do it there? So we're on the sidelines of his kid's baseball game in Winnipeg. It was just so accommodating.
Joe, what about you? What's a memory that stands out for covering 1.0?
Well, yeah, even in the 80s, the fact that you could talk, on the bench, you to the players, right after practice, that was special. Even the Bombers, going over to the Bombers and, before practice, just talking with the players, not interviewing them, but, them coming over and making fun of you and you making fun of them. That's kind of relationship. I know, Sarah, it sounds crazy, but
it's true. You're right, Joe. It's true.
And I just like the fact that we made the show Winnipeg and Manitoba centric. Like, going to, after Jet games and after Bomber games, doing live post game.
Yeah.
Which is normal now, but back in the 90s, that wasn't normal.
Yeah.
Guys, like you understand, like the landscape has changed completely, but one of the biggest misses, I think, is that the missing of local sports. That has not allowed anybody to get their reps in to come to sports, or go to TSN or do National Hockey League broadcasts. Do you see a day maybe that we come back to this, even with the way everything's on the internet now in some ways?
I think that's where podcasting takes over. People get their reps doing YouTube reports or podcasting.
And I think too, back then with Joe leading the way, one of the things we did pride ourselves on is that we did do local stories, and we did get out in the community. And of course, the Jets and Bombers led the way. And back then, the Winnipeg Fury were there playing soccer, and I always loved the game. But we always were able to find, kids in the community that were putting up great numbers, or a heartfelt story about someone who's beaten all kinds of challenges and might not be playing a high level of whatever sport they were involved in, but they were playing a sport, their sport that they love. So it was a great combination of the wonderful things that come with pro sports, but also having a lot of fun and trying to tell as many heartfelt human interest stories about the community of Winnipeg.
Yeah, Gene did a really great story with Todd McCullough in high school.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
and Todd, of course, is the tallest
right
kid in high school. So he found the shortest girl in the same school.
Yeah,
and had them dancing together.
Yes, I remember that. And I remember we put something up on a shelf, and I was trying to reach it, and Todd I think was all of 7 feet. And had a pretty good career in the NBA before he had some problems with his feet. And then he'd come over and he would come up and reach it. And then I was going to give him a ride home, and I had like the smallest car imaginable, trying to, squeeze poor Todd into that. Thanks for remembering that, Joe. I'd forgotten about that. And again, that was a mix of a star to be, a guy who had a high profile, but was in high school, and you could just do that stuff. And that was a lot of fun. I love covering Connor and Leon and, the NHL and Stanley Cups and all that. That's hard to, compete with that level of enjoyment. But I do miss those local stories and telling people about some great local athletes as well.
Jamie, I don't want to try and direct the show, but I'm going to direct.
Yeah.
Can you run the last clip I sent you?
Yeah. Oh, I was going out with a bang, man, because it was like, this is okay. Everybody, this is Pascucci's Angels.
Oh.
Joe Pascucci.
This is unbelievable.
Oh my God.
Michelle Lissel.
Wow. See, this is great. This is,
Thompson, Star
that's great.
I've never seen this. This is
I've never
great.
seen it either. This was how long after we left, Joe?
2 weeks.
How long?
Oh, probably about 5 or 6 years later.
Wow.
I credit Jeff Newman, who I believe is still in Winnipeg, as the producer and the creative genius behind that commercial.
That was great. I will say I have not worked in Winnipeg. It'll be 25 years this June 30 years this June that I left, and I still get people from all over geographically and in different rinks saying, "Oh, I remember when you guys, you, Joe, and Daren on Sportsline. What a great show!" And it's really nice to still be remembered from that long ago. So that tells Joe, Daren, and your viewers that it wasn't just about the Jets win 4-2 and so-and-so got a goal and assist. That we were able to do some things that decades later they still remember.
Yeah. There's
Did
a
I tell
certain
the story
generation that grew up on us.
Yeah.
Did I tell the story last time about the Grey Cup, Jamie? Sarah?
No.
Oh yeah. That's a great story. Yeah. Tell them that.
We had the Grey Cup in town. The Bombers had it, and so we wanted it on the show, on the set that night. So they said, "Yeah, you can have it, but you got to come and get it."
Yeah.
So I drove over in Ben, a little Chevy Cavalier, and then we got a call like 8:00, and they said, "You guys got the cup tonight. Can you just keep it overnight because we don't want to come and get it tonight, and there's nobody's going to be awake to drop it off."
That's
So
right.
we took it back to Eugene's house.
Yeah, that's right.
And got some pictures of the bar and
Yeah. We took a bunch of photos with the Grey Cup. We kept it overnight. That's right. God bless the CFL for allowing us to do that. And people were so great at sharing. That's an example. We just were able to. I think when Joe and Daren would call somebody and ask for something, there was a willingness to maybe go an extra mile to help because they were aware of the show. And I'm not sure we ever shed any dark light on anyone. It was always about shedding a positive light on whatever it was we were covering. And having the Grey Cup overnight definitely is a highlight. And I'm glad you remembered that and brought it up.
there was one when Joe got us in trouble with the Jets and the San Jose Sharks for using an illegal player.
Yeah, the April Fools.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great one, Joe.
What happened? What
Because
happened?
people
Okay.
fell for it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the Jets were out of the playoff picture.
Yeah.
So we, on an April Fool's joke, we said that San Jose Sharks had used an ineligible
Yeah,
player. I think it
yeah.
was Sandis Ozelich.
Yes, you're right,
So-
Joe. I
So
remember
they had
doing it
their
with you.
points, They had their points taken away from them. That didn't put the Jets in a playoff spot, but it put them really close.
Yeah.
And there was a radio sports show on CJOB at the same time we were on. So everybody who's watching us is phoning CJOB. Scott Oak, I think, was on at the time. And he doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah.
But he's getting all these calls that the Jets are back in the playoffs. The Jets are.
Yeah.
And
The
then
Jets
we
weren't
would
very
say,
happy.
April
Yeah.
Fools.
Yeah.
And then we did 3D sports.
Oh,
line
yeah.
with
Yeah.
the glasses.
Oh man, you guys have a great memory. This is all coming back to me thanks to the two
I
of
have the
you.
video. That's why I remember.
But guys, I mean, Gene, as you put it, the fact that people still come up to you
Yeah.
and talk about it shows the connection. Our chat, people are loving it. Being able to, I don't know if you guys have seen some of the comments that
Yeah.
Jamie's on the screen, but the reunion they didn't know they needed, or
Yeah.
how much they love being able to take this trip down memory lane. And I'm sure that we could go on for hours with you
Yes.
guys reminiscing about everything, but I just want to thank the three of you for take a little bit of time for being willing to go down
Yeah.
memory lane with us. And
Are we into the second period yet of the game?
Yeah, they were well on the side. The Canucks are just left.
it was a great game tonight.
Yeah, it was so
Yeah.
good. And we're moving on.
If you don't follow Joe, like
Yeah.
give him a follow, because there's some
Yeah.
amazing flashbacks that he'll pop up that I can't get enough of. It'll and I'll go down this rabbit hole, and it's outstanding. So Joe, credit to you, awesome stuff.
Yeah.
You three, what the job you did, and Joe, I mean, obviously such a staple in this marketplace for so many years, for decades, and not to really stress the so many, but for
So long ago.
but you're such a legend in here, and such always
Agreed.
yeah,
Yeah.
and just so important to the history of Winnipeg sports and Winnipeg sports media in here. We loved having the three of you on. Loved your willingness to take the trip down memory lane, and be sure everybody continue to follow Gene, Daren, and Joe. And as Daren mentioned, I mean, Joe puts out fantastic history highlights. And on this day, if you're ever wondering what happened in Jets history, 1.0 in particular, make sure that you follow Joe online, because he puts out, it's always fun to watch the videos. So.
Gino, I'll meet you at Arizona Fitness for a workout.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, I'll be on the Stairmaster or Stair Climber or whatever. I don't know if those are around anymore. Joe, great to see you. Daren, we'll see you sometime soon. And Jamie and Sara, thanks for the opportunity. It was a lot of fun, because we used to have a lot of fun and really enjoyed that time.
All right. Thanks so much, you three.
Thanks,
Take care,
guys.
everyone. Have a great day.
Guys.
All right, we have gone way over what we usually do, but
Special
worth
show.
it. But well worth it to be able to hear those stories and their memories as well about Jets 1.0 and how times have changed. So we are going to wrap this up, though, because otherwise I don't even know what
Don't even know what to say.
I don't even know what to say. So just
Yeah.
a reminder, it is the Canucks in town, game 6 of this 8-game.
Oh, yeah, there's a game tonight. I forgot
That's
about
right.
that. Yeah.
All right. So we've got other work that we have to do as well. Make sure you tune in. The game's on TSN. As always, you can listen to it on CJOB and 97.5 as well. We appreciate all of you guys in the chat. It's Saturday.
Yeah. Back at it.
No,
No,
Thursday. We're
Thursday.
only on Tuesday.
Yeah, Seattle's in town. And Nick
That's
Kiprios
right.
is coming on the show on Thursday. So thanks for watching, everybody.
Yeah. Thanks so much for checking in. Hope you enjoyed it, everyone. Take care.